What's up, you guys? Matthew here. In this video, let's do an update on the current state of Vibecoding, about a year and 1 day out since the day it was coined by Andre Karpathy. Right here in this tweet, he says there's a new kind of coding called Vibecoding, where you fully give in to the vibes, embrace exponentials, and forget that the code even exists. And that's all because AI is so good that you can do that now. And this was a year ago when he was saying this. So I wanted to make a video 1 year out to give my opinion on the current state of vibe coding, but also kind of like a run through of the different levels of vibe coding, or more specifically, the different venues and places, the different applications you can use to vibe code, and the different ways that you can work those different applications. So here, the first three, ChatGPT, Claude, Google Gemini, are the in-browser LLM models, meaning that you can use them to write code. So right here, I just say write a script that tells me the day of the week, right? Typo. All right. Here, ChatGPT is going to write me a script. Now notice, I didn't specify which language I wanted the script written in, and it chose Python. I think it chose Python because either I've been using this model a lot to write Python, or what I think is that Python is a language that's so well documented on the internet that it's easier for ChatGPT and all these other language models to write scripts that are in languages that are well documented because it's trained in that documentation. So naturally, if there are scripts that are less well documented, it, as a language model, would probably understand it less because it has less material out there to go through to learn how to use it. So anyways, Python is well documented, so AIs know Python a lot. You can use all of these different windows to pretty much write the same thing. If I want to write a script inside Claude, I can go ahead and have Claude write a script, the same thing. If I want to write a script inside Google, I can have Google write a script, it's the same thing. And all of these, the benefit of them is that they come with a flat rate subscription plan. So you can also use their free plans, but if you want to have a little bit more use, they come at like $20 a month. So it's a flat rate subscription. Here we can see all of these gave their own version of a script in Python that tells me what day of the week it is. And let's say I wanted to run this. And let's go ahead and pick one. Let's do the one from Claude. Let's say I wanted to run this. It can't run right here inside my browser window. Where I can run it is I have to have my own development environment. So here, this is called VSC, Virtual Studio Code. And I create a new file, new Python, and I can paste the script in here from my browser window. Save it as a file. Let's do something like test date. Save. And when I run this script, mind you that I have VSC downloaded, but I also have Python installed as a coding language on my device here. So I have it installed. And when I click run here, it runs the script and shows me that today is Tuesday. So I tested this a few different times, but making sure that it runs and gives an output in your development environment is the basic way to run a script. Now, let's say I wanted to create the same script, but I didn't want to copy and paste it from one window to another. VSC has this side panel where I can basically have it write a script. I can paste the same prompt here. I just pasted the script. I can paste the same exact prompt, tells it to write a script, except for I'm pasting it directly into the development environment on the right-hand panel into a language model that is currently selected as GPT-5 Mini from OpenAI. And it's going to go ahead and do it all for me and write the script for me inside the development environment. So I don't need to copy and paste. Now, one drawback might be that you're paying a flat rate, $20 a month for either of these three. Whereas if you're using this, if you're not using the free default one that I'm using right here inside Virtual Studio Code, if you're not using the default one and you're using one of your own, let's say I want to add a premium model or something like that, I want to use one from another company, then I'm going to pay per use. I'm going to pay every time I have it do something for me, like 50 cents for this time, 10 cents for that. Whereas I'm just paying $20 a month for these, right? So that's the main difference. But some of them allow you to use your flat rate subscription inside the IDE, and it depends on per company, and it depends on which third party they want their model to be compatible with. So let's say I wanted to use Klein. It's going to give me an unauthorized error warning when I'm using Anthropic models, because Anthropic doesn't want me using their models inside third-party extensions for development environment. They don't like that. They just want me to use their extension or their development environment, right? So they're trying to lock in. Different companies have different policies, so you'll kind of find out how that works. But here we have a script that's been written. This one is a lot longer than the other one, but let's see if it has the same output. It says it's Tuesday, right? So it has the same output. It did it in kind of a roundabout way with more lines of code, whereas, Claude just wrote 2 lines. So sometimes it overcomplicates things. You can see this one's like, 4 lines. That one's 2 lines. This one has, 3 lines. Whereas this one has like 12 lines or whatever. So, way more than 12. Anyways, all that matters is that you get the good output. But when it comes to edge cases and things happening that you didn't expect, sometimes the simpler code works better, or sometimes you need more robust code to prevent different things that might go wrong or whatever. I don't know what all of this is for, but bottom line is it get the same result. And that's mostly what people care about in terms of private software. You just want it to work. You want it to get the thing you want, output the thing you want. And that's what we got here. So let's move on. We've got another IDE, another development environment. Just like VS Code, we have Anti-Gravity, which is by Google. And it's the same thing. Notice it looks exactly the same. It's because it is the same. They just forked it. So they basically cloned VSC, Google did, and they made their own version with their own right-hand panel where, just like I said, you can use your subscription model. The same subscription model that you use right here in Windows for like $20 a month, you can use that inside their development environment to run an agent in the right-hand panel. And to give you an example, you could just paste in the same prompt and it will start working. But what's different about Anti-Gravity is they have this agent manager where you can spin up multiple conversations. So let's say I wanted to write a script that tells me the day of the week. I can send that off on its way, but then I can click another one and have it write me a script that tells me the year it is, and have that one spin up. So now I have 2 agents running at the same time, whereas in VSC, I could only have 1 agent running on one script. This one has many agents writing multiple scripts. I can spin up 4, 5, and then manage them inside an inbox, and they come back to me when they're done or when they have questions only. So here, it's done with the script for what day it is, and I can test it, see if it tells me it's Tuesday, right? It tells me even the date. Now let's see if it can tell me what year it is, 2026, right? So I just spun up live 2 different agents that worked on 2 different scripts and came back to me as I was explaining Anti-Gravity, right? So that's pretty cool. That's how Anti-Gravity works. It's called a development environment by Google with agentic systems built into it, so you can have a swarm. You're talking to multiple agents, right? That's pretty cool. And you're managing them in a pretty intuitive interface. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about, this is kind of like when we get lost in the weeds. There are new coding environments, I guess you can call them, or places where agents go that aren't in the window, that aren't, here inside the development environment. They are inside the CLI. That is the command line interface. That's where you can log in with your credentials using this kind of Cody programmer-like interface, and you can log in, and it ends up looking like kind of like still like you're stuck in this coding thing. That can be a little bit advanced. Maybe we could save that for other videos. But the bottom line is that you have these different versions like open code, or you have these GitHub repos like Ralph or GSD, where they are agent harnesses that live inside your command line interface. And so you're going to open them up inside this window. It's still going to look very codey, and it's still going to have this little blinking thing. And that's kind of how you're going to interact with it. Instead of like a clean UI like Anti-Gravity, you're kind of stuck in coder world, which some people don't like. They're trying to make user interfaces that go on top of the command line interface that make it less scary for non-technical people that don't want to end up having to like log in using this kind of like looking thing. But anyways, that nevertheless, this window is how you access the next level of AIs, the different agents that work through all of these different GitHub repos. You're going to basically use your command line interface. That's going to be another video. But so I'll leave that as kind of like a breadcrumb. Watch my next video or something. We'll get into that. Now, the last thing is that if you want to deploy your app to the general public, that's different. So here I showed you how to do in browser, run it privately, spin up multiple agents, or run in your CLI and everything. And that's nice. But let's say you actually want other people to use it. That's where Replit kind of becomes a place. You can paste your prompt in just the same, but the assumption here is that it's building out an application on a server where it can be hosted so that you can push it onto a public domain where other people can visit the website and then use your script in a way that's user-friendly, that has like a front end, that has a web page where they click a button and it tells them what day of the week it is or what year it is, right? So that is how Replit works. That is for publishing things to the public. That's for publishing. And there are other ways to publish things to the public. Let's say you're in an IDE. You can push to a GitHub repository, a code repository, using their source control. That's this little icon right here. You can see it in VSE. You can see it in the clone Anti-Gravity by Google. It's called source control. And see, I have 6 pending changes. That's pending changes to push to a GitHub. A Git is like a repository for code. It's where you can store your scripts, but then also you can use your repository in different ways. You can use your repository to deploy on Replit. You can connect a repository from Virtual Studio Code or Anti-Gravity and basically migrate it, push it to Replit and have it deploy the exact code from your development environment to the public on Replit. So you don't have to write it in Replit and then deploy on Replit. Some people like to use Replit to write it because it's easier to just press deploy after that. Whereas sometimes you write code in your, own private setting and it works for you privately, but it doesn't work for you on a server. Whereas if you just wrote it inside Replit, it would have natively probably worked it out so that it worked on a server first and foremost. So that's kind of something people run into. But anyways, this is like the stack in browser development environment, inside a window like Replit so that you can deploy it to the public. There's different ones like Lovable that are like more focused on building an app. It's kind of like Vibecoder-ish. I think this is closer to Vibecoding, whereas Lovable is more like no code, right? So there's a difference between vibe coding and no coding. No coding is what we had before vibe coding, which was, basically software developers trying to build drag and drop or point and click interfaces for people to use no code to develop applications. But then large language models came along. Now people who don't know code, they don't have to use zero code, no code applications. They can just use LLMs to write code and then use coding applications. So no code is dead. And so Replit is probably, becoming more popular than places like Lovable, unless Lovable adopts more of like a vibe coding sense. So that's kind of how I think of it. Whether or not you can use your fixed price subscription plans is also a moving target. And I think Google Anti-Gravity offers probably right now one of the best options to use. In my next video, there's about the CLI. There are options to use your fixed price subscription plans inside the CLI interface models, like this open code where Ralph or GSD. So I'm going to show you guys in that next video, and stay tuned till next time.